George Washington volume. I'm going to go ahead and pull it out now, Richard. One of the things I'm very keen on in my role here, it's my last career move, and I'm very bold, and I'm very pushy. I'm not sure the university is ready for that, but that's okay. So I'm very keen on preservation. Most of these materials have been preserved, and these wonderful boxes have been made since in the 4 years I've been here. And every single conservation preservation effort is paid for with private funding. So here's George Washington's copy of The Beauties of Johnson, the London 1782 piece. The other thing that I don't do, I don't wear gloves. Some of my colleagues would criticize me for that. I wash my hands after I had dinner. I can't feel the paper if I have gloves on. So, don't be alarmed. This is the Little Beauties of Johnson. It is an extraordinary little piece. You'll get, those of you back there will get a chance to see it closer. It is, I have it upside down. It is extraordinary because it has George Washington's signature on the title page. This was one of those things that was in the barrel and was just full of mold. So last year when I took it to the conservator that I use, who does all the conservation work in Washington, he gave me an estimate of what it would cost to restore this, and I said, go for it. It's George Washington. So he called me about halfway through the process, and he said the estimate has to be revised upwards because we found extensive mold in the back. Can you see there in the back of this, there's white? That's all fill, tissue fill from mold damage that had to be replaced. So he said, we have to revise the estimate up. He said, do I have your permission? I said, for God's sakes, it's George Washington. What am I going to say? Stop in the middle? You know, I'll have to sell cookies on the street, but I'll be all right. So this took longer and more money. I was doing it, and I paid for it. I didn't have a donor at that point. But it's George Washington. Do I need to keep repeating that? So I did a luncheon talk here in June, this past June. And I was seated at a table with a lovely woman who said, do you remember me from, you know, I attended one of your talks at some point, and of course I did not, but I told her I did. And she said, did you get the George Washington piece restored? And I said, I did, because it's George Washington, it's a priority. And she said, oh darn, I was hoping to pay for that. She was vice regent of the Mount Vernon Ladies Association. Lovely. Well, but you remember, I'm fairly quick on my feet. And I said, she said, well, darn. And I said, well, you know, it came out of my budget. I didn't have private funds. And she said, oh, good. Well, give me your card. And the next day, I got a call from our development office that said, do you know this lovely lady named, I won't tell her name, but I said, yes, I had lunch with her yesterday. And he said, well, good. She just sent us a check for $5,000 to cover this. That's what George Washington's name would do, I think. I mean, I think it has all to do with George Washington. I'll have this to show you, and then I'm going to take the other piece I have to show you, which I haven't even told you about, is an extraordinary piece that I think very few people know we have. It's an account book that George Washington kept for his two children. When he became guardian of Patsy and Jackie, he kept an account from 1759 until 1773. The last account is the day Patsy died. The book was extremely damaged. There's really not much more than remnants left. But we've had every page restored, cleaned, postbound, and you'll get a glimpse of it. It's in his own hand. It's an extraordinary piece. And I brought it with me. It's well preserved. I'll walk very carefully back up the hill. Do you have questions for me? Very quick. I'm happy to answer anything. We can talk afterwards. Yes, sir.
What would you say are some of the more significant things that General Lee did after the war to promote national reconciliation?
Well, certainly he went to Washington for the hearings. I've just attended a lecture on that, and he's been castigated for those hearings because he was asked questions about his views on slavery and other things that weren't very popular. I think Lee's role as an educator, I think he realized that this is what he really was meant to be doing. He came to a school that was broken. Washington College had 4 faculty members and 40 students when he came. The school wasn't burned by General Hunter. VMI was burned. The school was not burned, but it was looted. He immediately started to change the curriculum. He established the Commerce School, which is one of the first in the country. He changed the curriculum. He started to recruit. He started to raise money. One of the 2 major donors early in his tenure were Cyrus Hall McCormick and W.W. Corcoran. I'll show you some examples of those tomorrow. On the national scene, I think he didn't play such a big role. But in his letter of acceptance for the presidency, he goes into great detail about why he can't be president. It's the ultimate act of humility. He says, a lengthy letter, 2 pages, he says, I cannot accept your offer because I am worn out. I don't think he said it quite so coarsely, but I'm tired. But more importantly, I'm not a citizen. I won't accept the position. I won't bring dishonor upon this school by accepting it when I am not a citizen. But after going through all of that, he says, should you, however, take a different view and think that my services, or the services tendered me by the board, will be advantageous to the college and country, I will yield to your judgment and accept it. So, what role he played on the larger scene is questionable, but for this school, I really think if he had not become president, I'm not sure the school would be here. That's a pretty bold statement, but that's okay. I'm pretty much a fan, so. I didn't answer your question, but I danced around it a little bit.
What was his role with relationship with the students?
Oh, he was beloved, absolutely beloved, and he was strict. Oh dear, one of the pieces I like to show, and I don't think I'll have time to show it tomorrow. You'll have to stay another week if I can show you all these things. But one of the things there was some he had gotten wind that the students were going to go downtown on April Fool's Day and raise a ruckus. And of course, you also have to remember that when he came here, the boys who came to school here were rough, backwoods country boys who were soldiers. I mean, he's teaching that, and they're here at a school that's classics. They were learning Greek and Latin. So he got wind that they were going to go downtown and get rowdy. And so he wrote a memo, and it was posted, and we have the original. And he pretty much says, I don't advise you to do this. He didn't say what would happen if they did do it, but he says, I don't advise you to do this, and not a single person did it. Okay, I'm going to put these things back here. Yes, ma'am.
It just seems to me that as an example to other Southern men would be a huge way to movement toward reconciliation in terms of
Indeed.
I'm still going to get up every day. I'm still going to be a gentleman. I'm going to transform myself into something different so that I can make a place in this new world. To me,
Spoken like a teacher, doesn't it sound just like Of course, that's exactly what I'm sure that's. And of course, he came here in an effort to heal himself and to heal the school. Reconciliation, we call it reconciliation, but healing, really. I think he found his calling. I agree. I agree with you totally. And you said it much more eloquently than I would have said. Thank you so much for having me again.
So we had a little gift for Tom, and I too like a good story. And some of you may know this story, but in 2013 we were at George Washington's great-grandfather's house, Augustine Warner's house, Warner Hall, and we met a glass blower there. They were having a recreation of the Battle of the Hook. And the glass blower had an interesting story. He'd recently purchased an antique glass mold. He was making sugar bowls. That was the mold. And he noticed that every single bowl he made from the mold produced a flaw in one area, sort of an unusual flaw. But he liked the mold, so he continued to make these bowls. And then he went to the Museum of American History in Washington, D.C., and he saw Martha Washington's sugar bowl. And he noticed, hey, that bowl has the same flaw. And then he realized that what he had in his possession was the mold used to make Martha Washington's sugar bowl. And so I asked him, can you make us some sugar bowls? Oh. And he did. And so I'd like to give Tom a new Martha Washington sugar bowl with the flaw.
Excellent.
And it also has the Washington coat of arms.
Excellent.
Thank you so much for all you've done.
Quite beautiful. Again, I'm going to put these back here and I'll answer some questions. Let's do. What should I hold on to, the sugar bowl or the Washington piece?
Right, so I just have a few more announcements that will be useful for tomorrow. So you'll notice on the bottom of your tag, your ID tag, everyone has a letter at the very bottom, A, B, C, or D. That's very important. So that will be your group tomorrow that will tell you where to go at what time. So we're going to be doing 4 tours, all of us tomorrow, 10, 11, 1, and 2. Based on your letter, it will tell you where to go. And the agenda in your packet lists the schedule. So please get your agenda, carry it with you tomorrow, check it with your name tag. Also very important, in your packet is the campus map. You got to have that so you know where you're going. So please make sure you bring your campus map tomorrow when you leave in the morning. I've just realized we didn't do introductions, so I know we have some new people here who have not been to a reunion before. I was hoping they could raise their hands and perhaps tell us their names and where they're from.
Rise and speak.
Rise and stand. I'm Deb Ray, and I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. My husband, Tom Ray.
Thank you.
Neil Cobb from outside of Richmond, Banneker Sabbath, Virginia, and my husband Howard.
Welcome.
I'm Tootie Moncure. I live here in Lexington and I work at WNL.
And Tootie, we appreciate the Lee House tour. Thank you very much for that.
Hi, I'm Sean Russell from Sunset Harbor, North Carolina. My husband, Tom Russell.
Welcome. We have Ian.
I hope you guys go. I'm Daryl Goss. We live in Florida. My wife Lydia, but I'm from Kentucky.
I'm Ian Hewitt. I'm a law student here.
And I just want to remind everyone that the Justin Glenn bookstore is open in room 107, Justin? That's it. Room 107. So if you're thinking about buying some of Justin's wonderful books, I highly recommend it. Wonderful gifts, wonderful things to have in your own library, things you could donate to libraries where you live, a true treasure, Justin Glenn's Washington books. So please go see Justin if you're interested. All right. So I think that concludes the dinner tonight, unless we have a question.
How does this thing get started tomorrow? Is there a bus?
Yes, there's a bus. So look at your agenda. We're going to do pickups at both hotels in the morning. I believe we're leaving at 9. I have to check it. Look at your schedule. I don't know off the top of my head, but follow the schedule. We'll pick everybody up and then bring you to campus. We'll do the drop-off in the same spot near the Lee House. Bring your map, and then you'll go to each spot in order. We'll have lunch together in the Great Hall of the Science Center, and then we will also convene later on at Northern Auditorium near Special Collections mid-afternoon.
9:15, Richard.
9:15, excuse me. 9:15, please be ready to go then. And then after the presentation in Northern Hall, we'll come back to the hotels briefly to change or to rest before going to our dinner tomorrow night. Great.
I failed to tell you that the Washington volume that I brought, the provenance is even richer than led you to believe. It is George Washington's own copy, but it also has Mary Custis's name in it, and it was given to the university or presented to the library by George Washington Custis Lee, who is Robert E. Lee's son, who became president in 1870. When his father died, he remained president until 1897. So this has a pedigree that's amazing, this little Beauties of Johnson. And I have not read this book. I'm not going to. So please come over and let me talk a little bit more about these things.
And let's thank the staff of the Sheridan Livery.